Hey, what's going on, guys? Mike here, and thank you for joining me on another episode on the PowerShell show. So today we're going to be talking about parameters, why we need them, why we're going to be using them, and what they are, if you guys don't know. This is going to be more of a slightly advanced type of show. It's not, super advanced or anything, but it's more than what you're going to get in the beginner episodes. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my VS Code here. I'm going to come here, right? Let's just close this out. New file, right? And now we're going to save this to a centralized location. And my centralized location is going to be on my desktop. Guys, don't worry, this is a VM test environment. In a production environment, you want to be saving your scripts at least someplace a little bit better. Maybe not your desktop per se, maybe a network drive, maybe cloud storage, something like that. And if you can't connect to cloud storage, like your OneDrive, maybe you could just save them to your desktop and then move them over, or maybe GitHub or something like that. So we're going to go to desktop, we're going to go to VS Repo, and we're going to name this params. Let's change this to PowerShell. .ps1. Boom. And we can update this later, that's fine. So another thing that I want to point out too is VS Code isn't just for PowerShell. You can save multiple different languages, and you can use multiple different languages for PowerShell. I'm actually interested in playing around with the Docker file here in PowerShell, or I mean in VS Code. So we have our PS1 file here. This is where we're going to be scripting, right? So for the purposes of this show, we're going to be playing around with sim instances, which is a slightly newer version, I guess you could call it. I call it a slightly newer version of getWMI object. Instead of we're going to be using get sim instance. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do get sim instance, right? And as you can see here, this is the IntelliSense. I really dig this. You can just you don't have to type the whole thing in. You could hit tab, or if, let's do that again, get sim, you can scroll down and then hit enter, right? And it's there. So we're going to take our first parameter, and this is what a parameter is. Your parameters are the different things that you're going to be calling within PowerShell. Class names, if you're creating a different sim session, or if you're calling from a sim session that you created, computer name, namespace, input object, if you're querying something like a SQL query, select whatever from here, right? So filtering. Now, these are the parameters that are available within getSim instance. Whoever wrote the module, the code for getSim instance, put these parameters in. So we're going to be messing around with get class name, right? And we're going to do Win32 operating system, right? And then we're going to do another parameter, and we're going to do computer name, and that's it. So now here are these things that are set up, right? And let's say you're looking to create a tool. If you're looking to create a tool with getSim instance, it makes sense because you can do a lot of different things with getSim instance. You can get different information. You can feed in a session, right? Or let's say you want to change it from, let's say you maybe want to use WSMan or DCOM for your protocols, right? So now you can either do one of two things. You can do it the simplistic and just let me write a few lines and then call this, or you can turn it into an actual tool. So that's what we're going to do with our parameters today. So I'm going to call param, right? And as you can see, it kind of fills it out for you. So if I do this and then I hit here, it gives me both, right? So I'm going to come up here, I'm going to indent, make sure my script is nice and pretty, right? And then I'm going to do string, because that's the type of variable that I'm going to be using. You know, I could also be using an integer if I'm, you know, calling a number and stuff like that. So I'm going to be doing string, and then I'm going to call computer name. Now, there are a few different things that you could do, right? You can either create your own custom PowerShell scripts with .NET. I've done a few of them. It's very fun. It's very interesting. It's your PowerShell wrapper, right? But I think for the most part, at least for people that are using PowerShell and scripting with PowerShell and tool making with PowerShell, you're going to kind of be sticking to the PowerShell way of doing things, not necessarily the .NET way of doing things. And you know, there might be a time that we're going to get into that as well, but for now, we're going to be sticking to the PowerShell way of doing things, right? So we're going to call the computer name variable, but we're going to leave this blank, all right? And then down here, we're going to do computer name, right? And we're going to call our variable. And within our parameters, we can do a few different things. Now, we can do validate not null or empty, right? Now, validate not null or empty means validate that this string here is not empty. If it is, let us know, right? And now we're going to make sure our parameter is mandatory, right? So this is our basic setup of our parameter, all right? You can do multiple different things within your parameter. For right now, we're just going to be kind of sticking to the basics here. We're just going over really the basics of the parameters. And you might not have a reason, depending on what you're doing in PowerShell, you might not really have a reason to go overboard with these. I typically don't. I mean, I have scripts that I create a bunch of parameters, but pretty much I want to make certain things mandatory, or I don't, or I want to make sure that now you don't even need this here, the string, but you know, it just kind of cleans it up and makes it known of what it is. Validate not null or empty. The next thing that we want to do is our commandlet binding. Oops, sorry guys. Now, so commandlet binding pretty much means that you're turning this into an advanced function, an advanced script, right? Now it doesn't look too advanced here, but that's what we're doing. So I love to type this one in. I don't, you know, really call too many of the features in commandlet binding, but support should process. This gives you your what if and your confirm. So once you're creating this tool, right, you can call what if. So if you don't want to run it and you're just trying to test it, you can do the what if parameter, right? You can do the confirm parameter, things like that. I want to go back here to parameter real quick. Another one that I like doing is confirm impact, right? So we're going to talk about this one a little bit later on and maybe another show, but I want you to look at confirm impact. Confirm impact is very important if you are writing scripts that are impacting the environment, right? You could do low, you could do medium, you can do high, and then that's where you can get your prompts. Are you sure you want to continue with this? And then you click yes, right? So, but we'll do that in a different show. So we're gonna go here. We're actually going to indent here, make it nice and pretty, and then we're gonna call our function, right? And our function is gonna be called getSim, right? So we're gonna wrap our function around brackets, right? We're gonna make sure that we know what this is. I like to comment some of these. I'll comment for each loops, the end of for each loops. I'll comment if statements and else and else if and stuff like that, just to make it a little bit cleaner. That's all. So we're gonna call our getSim instance, right? So if we do getSim, right? Now here we have our parameters. And now keep in mind, this is the parameter that we set up here, our computer name parameter. So let's say we do this, right? And we type in localhost, right? Let's hope this runs. Right? So now here is our output from our local host, right? This is calling from the class Win32 operating system, right? Our object here. So as you can see, I put our variable from our parameter right after the computer name parameter, right? And with these parameters, I try to make it as close to the original parameter as possible, you know, but this is going to work either way. So you don't necessarily have to call it out. Let's call it cheese, right? And we ensure that we put our cheese variable in here, right? And now let's do this again. So I'm calling my function, my commandlet that I created, right? I get sim, right? And then I see my cheese here. So then I click cheese, and then I choose my current computer, and I'm running my selection, and I still get the same thing. It doesn't matter. You can call this whatever you want, but it's just nice to know. It's just nice to kind of call the parameter that's already kind of sitting there. Because nobody's going to know what cheese is, right? Well, we all know what cheese is, but nobody's going to know what cheese is for this script. So this is pretty much our basic setup for parameters. You know, we're not really going to go into anything more in depth within this video. I just kind of wanted to show what a parameter is, why you set it up. Once we kind of get to more advanced videos, we're going to kind of be setting up a bunch of these parameters. I'm going to show you, let's see, I'm going to go to my GitHub, right? And I'm going to show you guys what I am referring to when it comes to parameters. So here's my GitHub. If you guys want to go check it out, it's github.com/windowsadmin92. And let's say we go to Windows sysadmin. I have a bunch of different repos in here. Feel free to poke around and take a look at those. Now I'm going to go into my, let's do get workstation date list, right? So as you can see here, I have a few more different parameters, right? We have our value from pipeline. We have our value from pipeline by property name, which is you can do, let's say, you know, you have a computer name, right? And you use your computer name parameter. And you want to pipe your computer name into your commandlet, right? So you could type in your computer name, and then you can space pipe and then do get sim, and then it's still going to give you the same information, right? So that's the gist of it. If I can go into something else here, if I can find something else that has a few more parameters, maybe files and folders. Let's do new net share. Here you go. So you can see a bunch of different parameters that I created here, right? So I validated my count. I want to make sure there's only one of one in here. I validated that I'm going to be using a UNC share. That's the parameter that I'm going to be calling. This is the parameter that I'm going to be calling to set up my drive letter, and then my error log and my switch for my log error. We're going to get to these at a later time, but these are very important. Your error log and your switch for your log error. Your switch that comes up and it gets activated if a log or if an error occurs, which we're definitely going to be getting to these as well. So feel free to go take a look, guys. Thank you for joining me for this episode. I know it wasn't super intense, but this is where we want to start. We want to start with getting our command, what we're trying to accomplish, what we're trying to achieve, and then we want to slowly start to put some parameters in. We want to get our function up and running, and before you know it, you're going to have a 50-60 line script that you're going to be calling a tool. You're going to be using a tool, right? So thank you guys so much. I appreciate it, and I'll see you guys next time.